James Carter had no idea he was walking into trouble. His small shuttle had crash-landed 2 days ago on the edge of a wild alien colony. He had a few supplies, a half-broken cum unit, and a desperate hope someone friendly would find him before nightfall. But instead of help, he found a circle of aliens shouting around a fighting pit. Smoke rose from torches lining the arena. Large figures, taller than any human James had seen, banged their weapons against their armor and roared in excitement. 2 aliens stood in the center, fighting barehanded, fast and brutal. One of them a female with golden skin and glowing violet eyes threw her opponent to the ground in a blur of motion. The crowd erupted. James didn't care for their sport, but what caught his attention wasn't the fight, it was the small child crying at the edge of the pit. The boy looked terrified, hurt, and no one seemed to care. James rushed toward him. Without thinking, "Hey, he's bleeding," James shouted, waving his hands. The crowd turned. Silence spread like fire. Then, something unexpected happened. The alpha female, the one who had just won, turned and locked eyes with James. Her eyes narrowed. She stepped forward, her muscles tense, her chest rising slowly. She raised one hand and pointed at him. The crowd began chanting. Loud, wild, hyped. James blinked. "Wait, what's happening?" Translator drone zipped past him, repeating the words in broken English. He challenged the alpha. "No, I'm not challenging anyone. I was helping the kid." But no one cared. The alpha female stepped into the ring, cracked her neck, and motioned him forward with a single finger. Her smirk was deadly. "Come, little man," the translator said. "Show your worth." James looked around. Alien guards blocked his retreat. The child had been pulled to safety, but now all eyes were on him. One alien tossed him a dull staff, caught it clumsily. "Oh great," James muttered. "Gonna die with no shoes on?" He stepped into the arena. The ground was sandy, soft. The alpha circled him slowly, her tall frame gleaming with sweat. She didn't rush. She enjoyed the fear. James held the staff tight. "I don't want to fight," he tried to say. She lunged. James jumped back, barely dodging her fist. His legs trembled. He stumbled, swung wildly, and by pure luck, his staff hit her ankle. She slipped. For a second, time froze. Then she crashed to the ground, dash hard. Silence. James couldn't believe it. He stared, mouth open. The crowd exploded into roars and howls. They stomped their feet, shouted ancient words. The alpha slowly rose, not angry, but smiling. James backed up. "I didn't mean to." She walked straight to him. Her body towered over his, but her eyes weren't angry. They were glowing, almost soft. She placed her large hand on his chest and leaned in. "You have defeated me," she said through the drone. "I didn't even fight you properly." But she didn't care. Her voice dropped to a sultry whisper. "Now, you are mine." He could reply. She wrapped her powerful arms around his body, pulling him close. He could feel every inch of her heat, her strength. The entire tribe around them began chanting something ancient and deep. James gulped. "I think there's been a mistake." She leaned in closer, her breath hot against his ear. "Tonight, you will not sleep on sand, human. You will sleep in my arms." And with that, she lifted him effortlessly, cradling him like a bride. The crowd parted as she carried him through the glowing village, her grip firm, her expression proud. He couldn't struggle. Honestly, part of him didn't even want to. As the torches flickered behind them and the night air grew cool, James realized something terrifying. He hadn't just crash-landed on this planet. He had been claimed, and the one who claimed him was not going to let go. James woke slowly. The warmth of thick alien furs wrapped around his body. But what truly stirred him wasn't the heat, was the weight. A heavy, powerful arm was draped over his chest, and when he moved, the arm tightened. Something pressed against his back, firm and hot, and then a deep purring sound vibrated. Against his spine, his eyes snapped open. The alpha female was curled around him. Her chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. Her skin, bronze and softly glowing, radiated body heat like a furnace. She was holding him as if he were hers. And in her mind he was. His own shirt was gone, replaced with some silky alien fabric, wrapped carelessly around his torso. He barely remembered being brought here, just strong arms lifting him. His glowing eyes, a dozen torchlit faces watching in silence. James shifted slowly, trying not to wake her. He needed to get out of here, find his gear, signal a rescue. But as he tried to slide from under her grip, her arm locked even tighter around his waist. She wasn't asleep, not fully. Going somewhere human? She whispered into his ear. Her voice was low, soft, but had a dangerous edge to it. He could feel her breath on his neck. The night is cold. My arms are not. He forced a nervous chuckle. Yeah, I just needed to stretch. I am stretching too, she said, wrapping her leg over his. See? We stretched together. James stared up at the ceiling of the tent. It was decorated with bone charms, feathers, and glowing crystals. The air smelled of smoke, spice, and something undeniably her. Her tribe must have left them alone. She had claimed him in the eyes of her people, and now he was hers. Look, he began carefully, turning to face her. About yesterday. That was all an accident. Didn't mean to challenge you. I didn't mean to win. Lost? She said, grinning. Her fangs flashed ever so slightly. I claimed you before you even struck. I chose you the moment you stepped forward. His breath caught. Chose me? For what? She pushed him onto his back, her body now above. Her long dark hair falling to one side. To be mine. To warm my bed. To share my breath. Isn't that what humans do when they desire something? James was flushed, confused, and completely overwhelmed. You don't even know me. I know your heartbeat, she whispered, pressing her palm to his chest. I know your scent. I know the way your voice shakes when I touch you. He looked away. This isn't how humans... bond. Her hand moved up to his cheek. Then teach me, he froze. It wasn't just dominance in her eyes now, it was curiosity, longing even. Not just for his body, but for understanding. And perhaps more dangerous than anything, she was sincere. She slowly lowered herself beside him again, this time gentler. Sleep again, she said. When the suns rise, I will show you my world, and you will learn why I do not let you go. Didn't know what to say. His thoughts were a blur of survival, of attraction, of confusion. But even through it all, he didn't try to escape again. Morning came fast. The double suns filtered through the tent's thin fabric. When he stepped outside, the entire tribe turned to look. Some bowed, some stared. He was led through there, camp like a guest of honor or a royal prisoner. They brought him fruit, water, meat sizzling on open fires, and always nearby was her, the alpha. Watching, he asked her name. She gave him a sound. Verena. Tried to repeat it. She laughed and placed her hand on his chest. You may call me mine instead, he sighed. Later that afternoon, he found a quiet moment by the rocks near the water pool. He took out a small piece of his comm unit, trying to boost the signal. Static. Nothing. I see you try to call your sky people, she said behind him. She had followed silently. James stood. Yes. I need to contact my team. I can't stay here forever. Her eyes darkened. You already belong. You are marked. Marked. Heart THUDD. She leaned in and touched the side of his neck. He hadn't noticed before a faint glowing line traced down from his jaw to his collarbone. Her energy, her claim, her biology. You slept in my arms? You let me wrap you? No. You shared heat and breath? Now our bond begins. He swallowed hard. Can it be undone? Her answer was a soft but chilling whisper, only by death. James stepped back, breath shaky. I didn't agree to this. You didn't have to. Your actions spoke. You fought for a child. You stepped into the ring, touched me willingly. She stepped closer, cupping his jaw. I will not cage you, James. But understand this, No other will ever hold you the way I do. You will never feel safer than you do in my arms." He looked at her face, beautiful alien, radiant tanned, cursed himself because a part of him believed her. As the second sun dipped low, she held out her hand. "Come," he hesitated. She smiled. "I said you would sleep in my arms. I did not say it was only one night." And as he took her hand, one trembling step at a time, James realized something deeper than fear had settled inside him, now curiosity, maybe even desire. He didn't yet know if this was the beginning of love, or the end of freedom. But tonight he would not sleep alone. James stood in the center of the alien village, watching as a tall woman painted glowing blue symbols onto his arms. She wasn't Verena, but one of her tribe's ceremonial artists. She didn't speak, only hummed a strange, deep melody as she brushed the cool liquid onto his skin. Around them, dozens of aliens gathered in a circle, clapping slowly, chanting something in rhythm. Their eyes glowed in the twilight. He had no idea what this ceremony was for, only knew one thing: Verena had told him not to refuse. She stood at the edge of the circle, arms crossed, her long braids swaying in the evening breeze. Her expression was unreadable. Pride, maybe, or possession. James could feel her gaze burning through him. Since waking in her bed the second time, he hadn't been allowed more than a few steps from her side. Not that he was shackled. Eyes followed him everywhere. Her touch lingered on him long after she left it. After the paint was finished, the artist stepped back. Verena moved forward. "Tonight," she said loud enough for the whole tribe to hear, "he becomes recognized." James looked around nervously. Recognized as what? Verena placed her hand on his shoulder as mine. Cheer rang out from the crowd. He blinked. "Wait, I thought that already happened." After the duel? She leaned closer and whispered with a wicked smile that was claiming, "This is bonding." The tribe began to chant louder, faster. Drums echoed through the canyon. Fire pits flared to life, throwing golden light across the sand. And James felt his chest tighten. He tried to keep calm. What exactly does bonding involve? Verena smiled, then turned to lead him toward her dwelling, a tall stone den near the cliffs, surrounded by animal bones, feathers, and carved symbols. The others stayed outside, their chanting growing more distant as the couple disappeared inside. The tent was lit by a soft blue flame in the center. The furs on the floor were thicker now, layered with sweet-smelling petals and glowing moss. Everything in this space had changed. It wasn't just her tent anymore. It was being prepared for something else. She stood near him, removing the armor from her arms slowly, piece by piece. Then the cloth around her hips. Her body was powerful, athletic, her markings pulsing softly in rhythm with her breath. She approached him with deliberate slowness, like a predator, savoring the moment. "You asked what bonding means," she said softly, pressing her palm against his chest. "It means I learn your rhythm. I hear your heartbeat. I take your scent. You take mine. We share fire." James stared into her eyes, unsure whether to run or surrender. "You don't have to force me," he said quietly. Her brow furrowed as if insulted. "No force. That is not our way. You already gave consent." "When?" "The moment you fought beside me. The moment you woke in my arms twice and didn't flee. And the moment you touched my lips without fear." Remembered the kiss soft, cautious, unexpected. He didn't think it meant anything. But to her people, even one kiss was sacred. "You truly think I belong to you?" he asked. She stepped even closer, pressing her forehead to his. "No human. We belong to each other. Now." And then something strange happened. The paint on his arms began to glow brighter. He felt heat rise through his skin, rushing into his chest, his spine, his neck. It wasn't burning, but it was intense. It was her energy. Mixing with his, I'm feeling something," he whispered. She wrapped her arms around his back, pulling him down with her, onto the thick bedding. "That is the bond. It begins now." His head spun. His heart raced. Her breath was warm against his neck. Her hands moved across his skin with surprising gentleness. For all her strength and fierce power, she held him as if he were precious. He felt her lips against his collarbone, her fingers tracing the symbols now glowing across his chest. From this moment forward, she whispered, "We breathe together. We ache together. We heal together." The glow on his body pulsed faster. It wasn't just passions. Something deeper stirred beneath the surface. He felt like his body was syncing with hers, every touch locking him in tighter. And then he felt her heart, not metaphorically. Beating in sync with his own, he gasped, eyes wide. "What's happening to me?" She kissed him again, slower this time. "You are becoming mine, and I, yours." Time passed in a blur of touch and heat. At one point, he thought he saw the air shimmer around them like light bending from the energy passing between their bodies. Their bond wasn't just physical. It was biological, emotional, something deeper than human science could measure. And then it was quiet. Hours later, James lay there, her body curled around his, her breathing soft. He stared at the ceiling, trying to process what just happened. His skin still glowed faintly. His mind buzzed with questions. But beneath it all, a strange sense of calm. He should have felt trapped, but somehow, he didn't. Outside the tent, the tribe's song had faded. The fire still flickered. Somewhere out there, stars filled the night sky. But inside, he was wrapped in something deeper than silk or furs. Vanna stirred slightly, her lips brushing against his ear. "You sleep better in my arms, James," she murmured, half-dreaming. He didn't argue, because it was true. James didn't know when his body stopped feeling like his own. Maybe it was that first night in her arms, the moment her touch sent fire through his blood. But now, as he stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the alien jungle, he could feel it inside him, not like a parasite or invader, but like a second heartbeat hidden just beneath his own. The mark on his neck still glowed faintly, pulsing like a warning or a promise. Rena stepped up behind him, silent as always. She didn't need to announce herself. He felt her before she arrived, her warmth, her scent. Her presence like the gravity of a star pulling him in. "You're quiet this morning," she said. James didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes on the rising twin suns. "I woke up before you today," he finally said. "First time?" She smirked. "Then you are becoming stronger. My bond sharpens your senses." He turned to face her. "It's not just that, is it? You're changing?" Verena moved closer. Her fingers ran down his arm, pausing over the painted symbols that now shimmered beneath his skin. They're like glowing vines. The bond is not only spirit, it is flesh too. When our energies mix, your body adapts. To me, James took a slow breath. His muscles felt more defined lately. His eyes had started adjusting faster to the dark. And there were other things, small, strange changes, like how he could now understand pieces of her language without the translator drone. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he said softly. "You already are, or you would not have survived the night." He remembered the intensity of her touch, the way their bodies had seemed to fuse with heat and light. It had felt like drowning and being reborn. Still, a part of him wanted answers, wanted control. "What happens if I break the bond?" Verena's face hardened. "Then you weaken, and I suffer." "Suffer how?" She didn't speak for a moment. Instead, she stepped to the edge of the cliff and pointed to the valley. "Below, the talon beasts down there, they mate once in a lifetime. If one is killed, the other stops eating. They lay down in the grass and wait for the wind to take them." James stared at her. "You're saying this bond, it's that serious?" Her eyes met his, glowing faintly in the sun. "You are not just a visitor in my bed, James. You are inside my soul." Opened his mouth to speak, but a low growl rolled across the air. Verena's ears twitched. She turned sharply toward the trees. Something was coming. Within seconds, tribal drums echoed from the lower camp, loud, urgent. the kind of rhythm that signaled danger or a challenge. She cursed under her breath in her own tongue and grabbed her arm. "Guards, stay here," she ordered. "Verena, what's happening?" She didn't answer. It was already moving. James followed anyway, down the stone path and past the torches. They reached the circle again, the fighting pit. But this time, it wasn't a celebration. This was a trial. A tall, muscular alien woman stood at the center, holding a jagged spear. Her armor was painted blood red. Her gaze was fixed on Verena. The crowd had already formed. Whispers moved like smoke among them. James caught one word: usurper. The challenger raised her voice. "The human is not worthy. The alpha is weak. I claim him and her place." James froze. "Wait me." Verena didn't even blink. She stepped into the circle and spoke with a calm fury. "You touch what is mine, and you die." The crowd roared. The fight began instantly. James stood at the edge, helpless, as two alien titans clashed. Their weapons sparked with each blow, their strength shaking the ground. Verena fought like a storm, precise, unrelenting, but the challenger was younger, faster. Each time Verena was struck, James flinched. He could feel the pain ripple in his chest. Their bond wasn't just poetic, it was physical now. Verena took a hard hit to the ribs, staggered. The crowd gasped. Challenger laughed and turned toward James. "You want power, human? I can give you more. She weakens you." James felt something ancient rise inside him, rage, protectiveness, something he couldn't explain. He stepped forward, yelling, "She's not weak." And then Verena struck. With a roar that shook the stone walls, she twisted, slammed her foot into the rival's knee, then drove her fist into her throat. The challenger collapsed, choking. The crowd fell silent. Verena didn't finish her off. She stepped back, chest heaving, and looked at James. Her lip was bleeding. Arm cut, but her eyes were locked on him. "I will fight them all," she said, her voice shaking, "if that is what it takes to keep you." James stepped into the pit. He didn't care about rules now. Didn't care about alien customs or what was expected of him. He walked up to her, took her bloody hand, and held it tight. "You already have me," he whispered. Her eyes softened. For a moment, the warrior disappeared, and only the woman remained. And in front of the whole tribe, without fear or shame, he kissed her. The mark on his skin glowed again, brighter than before. The bond was no longer just a result of a mistake. Now it was a choice. Asterisk. The night after the challenge, the tribe held a fire feast in Verena's honor. But James couldn't enjoy the music, the dancing, or the endless trays of roasted alien meat. His hands were still stained with her blood from where he held her in the pit. Even now, as she laughed beside him, strong and radiant in firelight, he could see the bruises forming beneath her armor. She fought for me, he thought. She bled for me, and yet something in his gut wouldn't settle. It wasn't fear not anymore. He'd stopped being afraid of her days ago. It was something else, something colder, creeping behind the drums. Hiding behind the smiles of the tribe, they still looked at him like he was a prize. Not a person, even worse. Verena had started, introducing him as her bondmate. Not her guest, not her lover. Her mate, and everyone around them, accepted it as fact. Later that night, they sat near the glowing embers in her private chamber. She was lying beside him, half-dressed, tracing symbols onto his chest with her fingertip. They glowed as she touched him, his skin responding to her energy without him willing it. "You fought for me," James said softly. "You didn't have to." Verena tilted her head, confused. Of course I did. What if you'd lost? Then I would have died, and you would have been claimed by another." He sat up, frustrated. "That's exactly what I mean. You keep saying I belong to you like I'm some kind of prize." She stood then, slowly, and crossed the room. Her back was bare, her shoulders tense. "You are not a prize," she said without turning. "You are the flame that found me in the dark. I don't expect you to understand, but in our ways, bonding means everything. I am the Alpha, but even I answer to the ritual. James looked at his hands. The glowing tattoos on his arms weren't just for decoration. It was being marked permanently without fully agreeing to it. Before he could say more, a soft chime echoed through the tent to visit a request. Varina narrowed her eyes. No one dares disturb us after bonding. She pulled on her chest plate and walked to the entrance flap. When it opened, the night breeze swept in along with a figure James had never seen before. A man, a human man. James stood, stunned. The man was tall, clean-shaven, wearing a patched Federation suit. His face was scarred, eyes cold but sharp. He looked like he hadn't smiled in years. Varina's expression shifted instantly into suspicion. "Why is another Skyman here?" she growled. The man raised his hands calmly. "Name's Marshal Lennox. Federation Rescue Scout. We picked up a faint beacon coming from this region. Guess who it belonged to?" My emergence heart thumped. "My emergency signal. You got it?" Lennox nodded. Took a while, but yeah. We're parked on the dark side of the ridge. Cloaked, James stepped forward. "You can take me home." "Only if you want to leave," Lennox said slowly, studying him. Then his eyes drifted to the glowing marks on James's arms. His expression darkened. "They bonded you." James nodded. "I didn't understand what it meant at first." "They never tell you," Lennox muttered. "They just make it feel like you chose it." Varina's growl deepened. "Speak with poisoned tongue." Lennox didn't back down. "I pulled 5 men from tribes like this, only to survive the separation. You think she loves you? No, you're a trophy, seed carrier. The glow on your skin, that's her species mating claim. Your DNA is rewriting right now, and when it finishes, you won't even want to leave." James turned pale. "Wait, what do you mean rewriting?" "She's syncing your biology to hers, skin senses, maybe even memories. Soon, you'll stop thinking like a man. You'll think like hers." Varina stepped between them. "He is not your concern. He is mine." Lennox didn't flinch, then let him decide. James stood frozen. His body was warm. His skin itched. His thoughts felt clouded, but he remembered her hands when they trembled, her voice when she whispered his name in sleep, her rage when he was in danger. Was that just programming? Or something real? "I need time," James said. Varina turned to him slowly, her expression softening. "I will not stop you. But if you go, the bond will burn, and part of you will stay with me, always." James looked at Lennox. "How long before the ship leaves?" 30 minutes, he said. "If you're not there by then, we go." James nodded. That night, he sat alone on the cliff. The jungle wind blew over him. The moonlight lit up his arms, the symbols glowing softer now, like they waited for his choice. Freedom, or forever, behind him in the shadows of the stone den. Varina watched, silent, still waiting, and the clock ticked. Down. James didn't move from the cliffside for a long time. The wind blew across his face, cool and sharp, but it couldn't cut through the heat swirling inside him. It wasn't just the bond anymore. It was confusion, guilt, fear, and something darker, something deeper. He had 30 minutes to decide if he'd return to the stars or stay in her arms forever. And the truth was, he didn't know what he wanted anymore. When he'd first arrived here, he was a crash survivor. Lost, cold, alone. Then she found him. Or maybe claimed him. Her touch had startled him. Her power had frightened him. But rituals had confused him. But now her absence hurt more than her presence ever did. He looked at the glowing lines on his arms. The marks were dim, now quiet but still there, pulsing faintly with each heartbeat. A part of her inside him, connection he never asked for, yet could no longer ignore. "James," a voice called behind him, quiet. He turned. Varina stood at the edge of the stone path. She didn't wear armor tonight. No war paint, no blades. It's just a soft wrap of dark blue fabric across her form, her glowing tattoos bare in the moonlight. For the first time, she looked less like a warrior and more like a woman. He stood slowly, You followed me." "I never left," she replied. "I watched you sit here. I waited. Not as Alpha, not as your bondmate, just as me." We swallowed. "Hard. Why didn't you stop me from meeting him, from thinking about leaving? Because even the strongest bonds cannot hold a heart that wants to fly away." She stepped closer, slowly, cautiously, as if he were the dangerous one now. "But before you choose, I need to show you something." He hesitated. She held out her hand. "Please." James reached for her hand. And for the first time since they met, his fingers didn't shake. She led him through a narrow path that twisted between the jungle trees. They moved in silence, surrounded by glowing flora and the distant hum of alien creatures. Deeper and deeper they walked until they reached a clearing open, sacred, bathed in light from the twin moons. At the center of the clearing stood a stone structure. Carvings danced across its surface, and within it, a glowing orb suspended in air. "What is this place?" James whispered. "Our memory pool," Verena said softly. "Only bonded ones are allowed here. It holds the stories of our people and the truth of the bond." She gestured for him to step forward. He did. As he neared the orb, it pulsed. A wave of warmth wrapped around him, and then dashed visions, not dreams, memories. He saw Verena as a child, small, frightened, running through the forest while fire rained from the sky. Her village burned, her family was gone, then training, battles, blood, loneliness, and then him. Falling from the sky like fate itself, he gasped and stumbled back. The orb dimmed. "She gave me her memories," he asked, stunned. "No," Verena said quietly. "You received them? That only happens when the bond is real, not one-sided." James dropped to one knee. His breath shook. "All this time," he whispered, "I thought you were trying to own me." "I was trying not to lose you," she replied, "because I have lost everything else." James looked up at her. No armor, no war paint, just glowing. Tears in the corner of her eyes. He rose slowly, stepped toward her, pressed his forehead to hers. "I didn't know," he said. "Now you do." They stood in silence, their foreheads touching, their breaths sinking once again. The warmth between them returned, but now it was different, not burning, but healing. Suddenly, James felt a sharp pulse in his chest. He gasped. Verena grabbed his arms. "It's starting." "What is?" "The final bond phase. You touched the core, awakened the imprint." James stumbled backward, his skin lighting up like fire beneath the tattoos. His muscles tensed, bones ached, nerves sparked. He dropped to the ground, groaning. The bond wasn't symbolic anymore. His body was changing. He saw flashes her memories, his own, and something new. A shared vision of two beings intertwined, his senses sharpened. He could hear her heartbeat, feel her worry, taste the air. She breathed. He wasn't becoming her. They were becoming each other. Verena knelt beside him, cradling his head. "Just breathe. It will pass. I'm here." And it did. Slowly, the pain faded. James opened his eyes, and they glowed, soft violet, just like hers. She touched his face. "You crossed the line," he nodded, weakly. "Can I still go?" She hesitated. "You can always walk, but your heart might never leave." He chuckled, breathless. "Cheating." "No," she smiled faintly, brushing a tear from his cheek. "That's love." Back at the cliff, the rescue ship waited. Its engines hummed. Lights blinked. Marshal Lennox paced near the landing ramp, watching the forest. But James never came. Not that night. Not ever again. He had made his choice. With every heartbeat that now matched hers, and under the moonlit trees wrapped in alien warmth, he finally slept. Not in chains, not in confusion, but in her arms where he had always belonged. Dawn came quietly, with gold spilling through the jungle trees and soft mist curling around the sleeping village. But peace didn't last long. A loud mechanical boom shook the cliffs. Birds scattered. The ground trembled beneath James's feet. He shot up from the firs, heart racing. Verena was already at the entrance of their den, her body tense, her markings flaring like fire under her skin. "What was that?" James asked, grabbing his belt. She didn't answer at first. Her ears twitched, his eyes scanning the horizon, then a new sound commenced. Human engines. James stepped beside her just as a sleek, black dropship appeared from behind the clouds. It was not Lennox's scout ship. No Federation colors. No warning. Lights, this one came fast, silent and armed. James's chest tightened. "That's not rescue. That's an operation." Verena bared her teeth. "They come to take you." Behind them, tribe warriors emerged from huts, already preparing for battle. Spears glowed. Shields shimmered. The drums began again, but this time, the rhythm was war. James sprinted to the hilltop with Verena. From above, they saw 2 more ships drop through the clouds. He could make out the logo, Korvax Industries. He turned to Verena. "They're not Federation. They're corporate private soldiers." "Why?" she asked. "Because I'm bonded to you. That mark on my skin. It's rare. Dangerous. They want to study it. Choose it." She stepped in front of him, her face hard. "They will die before they take you." "No." James placed a hand on her chest, over her heart. "We fight together." She stared at him, then gave a short nod. "Then stay close. If you fall, I fall too." The first shots rang out as the enemy dropships deployed armored troops with shock rifles and net cannons. The tribe scattered into defensive positions. The jungle itself seemed to come alive as warriors moved like shadows among the trees. James grabbed a fallen spear. It hummed in his grip, responding to the markings on his arms. He wasn't just stronger now, he was faster. His heartbeat synced with Verena's, and he could feel her even when he couldn't see her. He wasn't just human anymore, and that made him dangerous. As the fighting raged, James ducked behind a stone, breathing hard. He saw one of the mercs moving toward the sacred dental ward, the memory pool. "No," James growled. He lunged from cover, driving the spear into the man's side. The merc screamed, falling hard. James didn't stop. He grabbed the shock rifle and fired it into another attacker, charging toward Verena's back. She turned, saw him, and gave the smallest smile. "You fight well, mate," she called. "You taught me." But the smile didn't last long. A sudden whine cut through the air. A heavy gunship appeared, hovering, aiming a plasma cannon directly at the heart of the village. James froze. Verena turned pale. They couldn't outrun that, the cannon began to charge bright light building at its core. James looked at her, breath caught. "If it fires, we burn," she finished. Without thinking, he ran straight into the clearing. He dropped his spear, raised his glowing hands, and screamed at the ship above. "I am not your experiment." Cannon pulsed, ready to fire. Then a flash dot, not from the gunship, from James. His body erupted in light, his markings blazing white-blue. The bond had reached its final stage. His heart, her fire, their energy combined and released. A shockwave burst from him like a sonic boom, slamming into the gunship with impossible force. The air shimmered. Metal warped. The cannon exploded in the sky, and the ship spun out of control. Crashing deep into the trees, the battlefield fell silent. Smoke drifted, the enemy scattered, and James collapsed. The arena ran to him, catching him before he hit the ground. "James, no, stay with me, breathe." His eyes fluttered open. "You glowed," she whispered, choking back tears. "Like our ancestors, the sky-bonded ones." "I told you," he coughed, weakly smiling. "I sleep best in your arms." As she laughed through her tears and pulled him close, holding him tightly against her chest. Later, after the flames were put out and the dead buried, the tribe gathered at the stone circle. Elders carved James's name into the sacred wall. He wasn't just a guest now, he was part of them, a warrior, a protector, bonded soul. That night, as stars filled the alien sky and the jungle returned to its quiet rhythm, James lay once again in Verina's arms. But this time there was no confusion, no fear, only peace. He wasn't lost anymore. He wasn't alone. He had been won. Yes, but in her eyes, in her heart, and in the soul-deep silence between their joined breaths, he had chosen this life, and he would never sleep anywhere else again.